Pirelli GT4 America wraps up its weekend at Sebring International Raceway with the second leg of a doubleheader. Yesterday, race one was a brilliant day for BMW, which swept all three classes in the first race of the weekend. The weather, though, is the story here in Central Florida. It is hot, it is humid, temperatures climbing into the 90s. Cockpit temperatures in these GT4 cars yesterday cresting 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It will be a challenge for all involved as we get ready to go with the next race of this 2025 season. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. And deputizing today for Amanda Busick down there on the grid is our very own Jonathan Grace. Let's welcome him in now. Hi, Jonathan.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for having me. You mentioned it was warm today, and boy, is it. They don't kid about that Florida sunshine. It's going to be a real challenge for this massive field of GT4 cars today. You also mentioned it was a picture-perfect day for BMW. 3 class wins yesterday, and 2 of them were for the Random Vandals squad. But I think another impressive story is the car at the head of the grid, that Aston Martin of Vanderstur Racing, making the jump from GT America, landing in Pirelli GT4 for this weekend. They had a really strong day yesterday, but they're looking to find their way into victory lane today. But they're going to have the ACI Motorsports crew right on their doors to contend with at the start. There's a lot of storylines up and down the grid, almost too many to talk about, but those are just a couple we're keeping our eyes on here before the green flag.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Stay cool down there as best as you can, and I know you'll be keeping tabs on those stories over the course of this 60-minute race. Calvin, fantastic racing yesterday, mostly clean race. BMW came to the fore, it's true, but there were plenty of battles and plenty of competition for the Bavarian brand.
There is plenty of competition, and when you think about our overall winner and the silver class winner of Kenton Cook, he starts back in 11th overall on this grid today, so he's got a lot of work to do. There's some really strong factors up front, as Jonathan alluded to. The Aston Martin on the pole, outside of him, Riley Dickinson in a really fast Porsche for ACI Motorsports. So for BMW to cut and pace what they did yesterday is going to be really tough in these conditions.
No doubt about it. Also, we have that intermixing of the classes. It's a silver car on the overall pole with Luca Mars, but behind him, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth on the grid. Those are all Pro-Am class cars with their pros in the lineups. And Calvin, some of those names were featuring at the very front of the field yesterday.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch the pros go up against this, just a stacked field, so much experience, so much success over the years at this level of competition. So they'll switch over. What they're trying to do is just basically set the table for their AM partner to take over at about the halfway point in this race. 60-minute event, no refueling, no tire change, and you'd expect those pros in the Pro-Am lineups to really maximize that 35-minute maximum drive time.
In the AM class, it was a tough day for the Rafa Racing crew, Anthony Gerasi and Kenny Schmid, but they start on class pole down in the 17th position. Charlie Postins and James Clay were there to pick up the pieces yesterday, breaking through for a big win off the heels of a strong performance in Texas the last time out.
It did, and with those 2 wins on the bounce, including the double points event at COTA, that now moves the 36 squad into the championship lead, but it is a narrow margin, just 4 points separating the top 3 in the points, with the 72 who came into this round of the championship with the lead, dropping down to 3rd position with those problems yesterday.
Remarkably competitive field as always. Car count just around the 30 mark. Strong lineups across the board, strong teams as well that were executing at a very high level. The pit stops were being done within fractions of the minimum yesterday. So these teams are now in mid-season form.
They are. We saw a few anomalies with a couple of teams being way outside, probably some issues on those starts, but typically you're fine-tuning, trying to get right down to what is an 84-second minimum pit stop time. When you work that out, that means the first pit stop that could happen and suffice the 35 minutes maximum drive time will be with 36 minutes and 24 seconds to go in this race. You'll see that in the clock on the left-hand side of the screen once we get to green.
Well, it's a great grid, as you can see. The cars making their way around on this lone formation lap. Here's how they'll line up. It is Luca Mars on the overall pole. Vanderstur Racing, their first race in GT4 America, transitioning, as Jonathan said, from GT America. Riley Dickinson, the points leader right now in Carrera Cup North America, former champion in that series. He'll start alongside pole-sitting car in Pro-Am. Then it's Michael Cooper from Black Dog Speed Shop and the veteran from Michigan, Mark Miller, in row number 2. Row 3 belongs to Matt Bell in the P1 group. OnlyFans-sponsored McLaren. Josh Green alongside for Random Vandals Racing finished second overall yesterday, a winner in class. Tyler Gonzalez for the Rafa Racing team starts in 7th, 8th to Alex Ellis, the Canadian for VPX Motorsport. Row 5, another Canadian, that's Parker Thompson for JTR Motorsports Engineering, and Jesse Webb from JMF Motorsports, an all-Canadian, row number 5. Kenton Cook all the way down in 11th. That car won yesterday. Very strong indeed. Mateus Lace will line up 12th. That car was damaged yesterday in a crash in the early stages. Tyler McQuarrie and Matt Millian, another car that is recovering from some damage in race 1, starting in row 7. Then it's Zach Anderson and Mike David Ortman, the German Aston Martin factory pilot, back in the 8th row. 9th row to Kenny Schmid. That's the pole-sitting car in the AM class with Charlie Postins, a 2-time champion in the AM class, starting in 18th. To the 10th row of the grid now, where Michael Kanishak will roll off 19th overall, next to Lucas Catania for the Rigid Speed team. Back in the 11th row, you'll find Denny Stripling for Fast Track Racing and Hannah Grisham for Heart of Racing. That car repaired after a testing crash earlier this week. Thunder Bunny Racing back and strong once again. Alan Patton will do the starting duties today, next to Michael Garcia in a car he shares with his brother Alex. 13th row, Sean Gibbons set to get the start for OGH Motorsports next to Dan Seville. Alternate strategy for that ACI car. Watch it come to life in the second stint with Kai Van Berlo, who started on overall pole yesterday. Jagger Jones, if that car is ready to go, that's the grandson of Pirelli Jones, set to roll off from 27th next to the veteran Thomas Merrill, and Christopher Lee out back, debuting in that car for Pro Sport competition this weekend alongside Tim Savage. Big grid of cars. It takes a while to get through them, and as a consequence, they're already on the Ullman Straight here, Cal. We're about ready to get going to start the second race of the weekend.
Heat was a big factor here yesterday, just trying to keep these cars running cool. It's about 10 degrees ambient temperature, less than we had in the heat of the day yesterday, so a little bit of respite for all of these drivers, and particularly those cars trying to survive this torturous event.
Update from Jonathan on the pit lane. Indeed, the Fast MD car, Jagger Jones, is set to take the start. They had to sit out GT America earlier today, but great news there after an accident in race 1. Cost them a good result and the chance to race earlier this morning. Field in perfect alignment. Luca Mars, the Rover Pole Award winner, has the field in hand. He's got Riley Dickinson in the Porsche to his outside. Here's the field into the VP acceleration zone, and we are racing for race 2 of the weekend here at Sebring. Michael Cooper already looking aggressive. That's the orange McLaren. Dipping to the inside of the racetrack. He'll grab at least the second spot. He might have the lead by the time turn 1 is all said and done.
Yes, beautifully judged there by Michael, sitting P3 on the grid right behind our pole sitter. Jumps to the inside. Riley Dickinson tried to set up that big wide swing into turn 1, but had to give it up.
That's now a Pro-Am car to the overall lead of the race. Look how tight it is further back in the pack. It's still 2 and 3 wide outside of really the top 5 or 6 cars. Cooper stealing a march on the field. He has scampered away. Big move there on the opening lap for Michael Cooper to take Black Dog to the front of this field. They were race winners here a year ago.
Yeah, really strong race car here this weekend. He was on the charge yesterday, ended up finishing on the podium. Looked like he's going to grab second at one point, but Parker Thompson held him off late in the going.
First time through the hairpin at speed here in race number 2. Some dust kicked up, but everyone still on the straight and narrow. It's Cooper leading from Luca Mars. That's the silver class leader for Vanderster Racing.
Little touch there.
Mark Miller shuffled out to the outside. That's allowed Gonzalez to come through, and now Matt Bell in the McLaren. He's charging as well, side by side between the two veterans from North America.
Yeah, a little touch there by Gonzalez, loosened up Mark Miller, who was extremely quick here yesterday in that Mercedes.
Great qualifying effort for Mark to put that Mercedes so high up the field overall. This fight's not done yet. Bell will have the inside, maybe a little hip and shoulder there, but they're able to continue on, give Bell the position. Mark Miller dropped a couple of spots there. Oh, that was a late lunge. Parker Thompson looking aggressive here in the early going.
Good start there by Kenton Cook. We talked about him qualifying way down the order, 11th overall. He's already up to P8 on this opening lap.
What an opening lap it has been. Kenton Cook charging into the 8th spot, like you said. Thompson forced to go on the defensive there. He's feeling some pressure from behind from Tyler McQuarrie. That's the red number 82 BMW.
And they are the championship leaders, Macquarie and Walker Jr. Solid day yesterday, another top 5.
Cooper, Mars, Dickinson, Green, Gonzalez. Then you get to Miller with Bell in tow. And just behind him, Kenton Cook. Great opening lap for Kenton, trying to make up for some ground lost with a relatively poor qualifying. So much is expected of him these days. He's driving at such a high level, whether we're talking about GT4 or at the GT3 level in GT World Challenge.
Yeah, he's a busy boy. Had a big day yesterday. Victories in this Pirelli GT4 race and in GT World Challenge America for Random Vandals alongside Connor DeFilippi. Big swing for them in the points yesterday, so they'll be happy going to bed last night. But it's a new day, a new fight.
Further back, it's Random Vandals leading the way in the AM class. Really good start from Mike Kanishak. He was able to get around both Schmid and Postens. That trio runs nose to tail, 17th, 18th, 19th overall, but they are leaders in their respective class.
That penalty yesterday, it kind of thwarted their charge, but championship is so tight right now. You have to keep fighting. It's early in the season.
That car was, I think, the only Random Vandals car not to finish on a podium yesterday. They had podiums with both of their cars in GT World Challenge. The other 2 cars here won their classes.
Great point. Big team dinner last night, I'm sure. Parker Thompson holding station there just inside the top 10. That's the aqua blue colored Supra there just coming through our shot. Screen left. To JMF, Aston Martin's running a line astern there. Ortman leads Webb at this point in the race.
Ortman, a real talent in a GT4 Aston. Race winner, championship winner in several categories in Europe before coming here stateside. It's his first North American program. Did a little karting over here in the States when he was younger. But Sonoma was the first time he got a chance to race on one of these famous North American venues, and you get to sample just about all of the classics on the schedule in Pirelli GT4 America. Kenton Cook diving to the inside of Matt Bell down into turn number 1. Further back, fight here between Kanishak and Postens. This, I believe, is for the lead in the AM class, and Kanishak is able to hold off the 2-time champ.
Yes, but Charlie's going to fight. He now looks to the inside down into turn 3. I don't think it's going to work. Gap is shrinking there as they get to the brakes.
At the very front, Luca Mars settling into a nice rhythm. He nearly matched Michael Cooper to the 1,000th of a second. They were separated by just 1,000th on the last lap, a 2:13.11 to a 2:13.10.
But Kenton Cook was not able to make that move on Matt Bell there, so he continues to run in 8th overall. But in podium contention right now, runs 3rd in the silver class. Luca Mars leads that over Tyler Gonzalez.
The big thing for Kenton was to get around some of those Pro-Am cars that separated him from the front runners in the class. He's made some progress, but it gets difficult now because you're up against some really strong pros in these Pro-Am cars here in race 2.
Yes, you really are.
Mark Miller taking a peek there. Tyler Gonzalez had the suspension issue or shock issue. What was it yesterday? I'm trying to remember. Oh no, it was there was something on the track. That's what it was.
He ran wide down in 7, and we spoke to Kenton after his victory, and he said, I think there was something on the racetrack because he was right behind him when he made that little slip up. It just doesn't seem to me, you see where Parker Thompson is in this race and where Gonzalez is fighting. It doesn't seem like the Supra's maybe the car to have here on this circuit. It's been great for the overall season. Certainly a really competitive race car, but it seems some of the other brands have a bit more pace here this weekend.
Well, we talked about the strength of BMW yesterday, winning all 3 classes, but Michael Cooper was really fast late in that race yesterday, and we're seeing the Mercedes really strong.
Overshot the entry there to turn 17. I think it's going to give Kenton Cook an easy path through to take away 7th overall.
Yeah, exactly right. So Kenton up another spot to 7th overall, as you say. Josh Green, his teammate, just set the fastest lap of the race in the Pro-Am entry from Random Vandals. 2nd on the road, or 2nd in class, I should say. 4th on the road. Mark Miller looking really strong. He had the fastest lap until just a few moments ago, carving to the inside of that Mercedes and grabbing a position away from Tyler Gonzalez.
Yeah, great job there by Mark Miller not to get too frustrated and get too feisty trying to make that position back. And, I really felt it was kind of a bump and run by Tyler Gonzalez. It was subtle, but enough to loosen Mark up there a couple of laps ago and grab that position.
Front of the field, Cooper by 1.8 seconds. Here comes Kenton Cook. He too gets to the inside of Tyler Gonzalez and will take a spot away. Now that was for class position. That was for second in silver. Really strong start here for Kenton as he climbs up through the rankings, up to 6th on the road now.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be the normal fight from Gonzalez there. He seems like he's really struggling for pace here. Everyone's all over his tail right now. Parker Thompson there now gets side by side with Matt Bell as they go through turns 12 and 13.
Only good news for Tyler is his next closest pursuer in class is Zach Anderson, all the way down in 12th overall. So there are 4 Pro-Am cars in between the 3rd place car in silver and the 4th place car in silver.
68 car of Gonzalez does have the championship lead, but it's now only 2 points over Kenton Cook and his teammate Kevin Boehm after yesterday's victory.
As they run, that would change hands.
It would. 3-point swing right there.
Awfully early in the season, but these championships have come down to the wire regularly over the years in Pirelli GT4 America, so it's never too soon to start counting those points. Quarry forced to be defensive there. Matthias Lace, the ex-IndyCar driver, closing in. Got cut off a bit, and that's left him vulnerable now to Zach Anderson.
Quarry's pretty deep in class position right now. He's 7th, I think, on the road in terms of his Pro-Am class there, so he's got to dig a little bit deeper. That's our championship leaders.
Surprising, especially on a weekend where the BMW has been a really good package. Right now, he sits in the tire tracks of Parker Thompson in that bright blue Toyota Supra. And I think you made a good point earlier. You look at where the Supras are running. Typically, Thompson and Gonzalez, you see them at the very pointy end, and if they're not there, then that is indicative that maybe it's not the best fit car to circuit for whatever reason here this time around.
Yeah, because you'd put both of those drivers up against anyone in this field. They've certainly got a lot of pace, so they're just hanging on right now. It's a damage limitation in terms of the overall season, but that's the way it goes. It's always going to be an ebb and flow. Certain circuits will suit a different manufacturer and brand, and you just got to be thinking big picture. Try and limit that damage. Don't get too feisty. Don't ask for something from this race that the car's not going to give you.
A look in at the leader in the AM class. Raleigh, North Carolina native Mike Kanishak fending off the challenge here in the early going by Charlie Postins. Tough day yesterday, as you pointed out. They were involved in some contact, assessed a penalty for it. Cost them a decent result, but it was still a banner day for this Random Vandals racing team. You can tell by the name, the team likes to have fun. It's a lighthearted bunch, but they are deadly serious when it comes to their racing. They take this as seriously as anybody in the paddock.
Yeah, they've really upped the ante this year, running 5 cars, 3 in Pirelli GT4 and 2 in GT World Challenge America, of course. Paul Sparta shares this car that's leading in AM. He's the team principal, and he's putting all of the resources forward to try and make this a top-notch organization. They're certainly showcasing that so far this season. And he found Mike Kanishak last year. Ironically, when Paul was injured, Kanishak subbed in, and he liked what he saw and felt he'd be a great teammate for this 2025 campaign.
Moonlighted for the team in TC America back in 2022, made just 2 starts in a TCX class car at Road America. Had a pole, I think, in his debut race, if memory serves. Long-time club-level competitor in BMWs. I say long time, really dating back to 2020 is Mike Kanishak. But former NASA national champion in Spec E46 competition back in 2023.
Matt Million there making a move on Jesse Webb, not for class. Oh, deep on the brakes there by Parker Thompson. Trying to defend there from the inside line. Matt Bell putting the pressure on. Elbows are out. argy-bargy as they come through turn 8 there.
Thompson got the spot from Bell, then was trying to fight to hang on to it. Bell now being swallowed up a bit. Here comes McQuarrie. This is for class position here in the AM class, and Bell left in no man's land offline. Dangerous place to be, but he fights back to the inside here, down into Tower. Mateus Laced waiting to pick up the pieces if one of them should falter.
Yeah, and he's going up against one of the most savviest drivers out there, Tyler McQuarrie. You know he's already thinking big picture about that championship and the lead that they have, so they'll be fighting hard to get more positions, but without risking being sent off the road.
Bell in the white, blue, and orange McLaren. McQuarrie through now in the red
beautiful
line, red-colored BMW M4. Bell did well to slot back in line there and not allow Mateus Laced to get alongside.
That was really nice driving there by McQuarrie, just clearing the nose of Bell and just swinging through that sequence of corners. Laced with a big run, big draft down the backstretch, going to push it deep. Bell's going to try and go around the outside, opening up the door on the inside there.
Here
Zach Anderson.
Exactly. Zach Anderson saw the opening and he went for it. He'll pick up at least 2 spots, it would appear. Alex Ellis coming into the mix too. That's the white and gray Porsche that's in the background of this fight too. Laced is up to 9th overall. BMW's side by side into turn number 1. Anderson, tons of speed around the outside, and can he clear McQuarrie? Cars in different classes here, lest we forget. McQuarrie does hang on, but only barely, as Bell has to play some more defense. Whoa! Big jump up and over the curb there, and that cost Anderson a spot.
Yeah, similar to what we saw with Newdorf on the opening lap here yesterday. That was the kind of the, oh, someone's off and on. Is that Ellis?
Might have been. I think so. Yeah, that car's disappeared all of a sudden.
It's back on the road, but lost a few positions there.
Yep, there it is. At the back of this train as Anderson drops the left rear. That's going to get really tight there. Oh, at turn 7, opens the door for one of the JMF Astons to try and come through.
That's Ortman right there in the 4 machine. Thomas
Merrill is there too, continuing to push forward. Then Ellis, who dropped a couple of spots with his off a few moments ago. Man, it's amazing how quickly you can go from hunter to hunted.
Well, there's so many great drivers in the middle of this pack right now, so if you make a little slip up or you get too aggressive and it goes wrong, suddenly everyone pounces all over you.
A lot to try and sift through as we're now a quarter way through this 60-minute race. Let's take a look back. A few close moments. It all started here, a little bit wide for Anderson. Not sure if he was helped out there or not, but then as he rejoins, it got very close.
He had to keep his foot in, obviously, otherwise he's going to get freight trained there. A bit of a rough ride through the exit curbing there coming off of turn 7. It was really just a gap that was diminishing there into the brake zone for Anderson. And I think he was just waiting for Matt Bell to turn in and give him a little bit of room to work with. Never actually occurred, of course, so he ran out of room.
Anderson now coming under attack from the 15 Aston, the white machine there. It's Thomas Merrill, the veteran.
See the wild ride there if you really hug it tight through turn 17. Really jockeys the race car around a little bit. Towards the front of the pack, this is a battle for P2 overall. Got Luca Mars leading in silver. Cooper's disappeared down the road by about 3.5 seconds. There you see the Black Dog Speed Shop. McLaren just going through our shot. Then it's Luca Mars, 2nd overall. Josh Green, another great run, following up off that brilliant run here yesterday.
Yeah, he had an eye-opening performance. Made that pass on the final lap to get to 2nd overall. Made it 3 wide, passing 2 cars that were fighting for position in a different class. Didn't need to make the move, but he was so calm talking about it after the fact. Said, yeah, you know, I've been sitting behind him, kind of sizing him up, and thought, what the heck, let's do it.
Yeah, just a natural racer. He just surveys the situation and said, no risk, let's just go for it. Had a big draft there down the back stretch. It looked a little risky for us in terms of lead car in class not needing to make that move with a couple of second gap to the 2nd place runner, but nonetheless, he was happy with that.
Josh piloting the blue and orange BMW for Random Vandals Racing. Second car in the shot, just behind him, Riley Dickinson. Car that started on the outside of the front row, but has faded a little bit. 43 minutes to go here in race 2 of the weekend. Jonathan Grace down in the pit lane has this update.
Well, we mentioned at the top of the show that number 20, that Audi GT4, the Fast MD Racing by Remstar car with Jagger Jones installed, did make it to the green flag, and it did one lap and then came into the pits with an ABS module issue. The team had the laptops out, car plugged in. Basically what was happening, they were getting an error code, and the brakes would lock up at random times. It was an unfortunate issue. Obviously a bad position to be in as a race car driver. They pulled the car in, and unfortunately nothing really they can do. So the Fast MD crew, their day is just about wrapped up here.
I hate to see that for them. It was great to have them here on the grid. They're working through some stuff, getting that car into the latest and greatest spec. Hope that is sorted by the next race at VIR. Especially great to have a name like Jagger Jones with the pedigree that comes with that family name. Grandfather Parnelli, father PJ, and Jagger very much in the mold of his more famous relatives.
This little battle here for a top 5 position in class is getting a little bit feisty there. Ortman looked like he was a little bit aggressive there with switching lines there coming down the front straightaway. He's feeling the heat from behind from Zach Anderson.
Chance to dip down to the pits one more time. Another update from Jonathan.
I just wanted to follow up on that Fast MD point, Ryan, because you mentioned how impressive this program is and how awesome it is to see it here. I was talking to some of the folks at Remstar saying that they may actually shift their focus, trying to get the GT3 Audi homologated and up to the correct Evo 2 specification to be able to run in either GT America or GT World Challenge. So this may actually be the last we see of that GT4 car. Nothing confirmed just yet, but that's what I'm hearing down in their pit box.
Yeah, I had seen your reporting about that as well. That's exciting as well to hear that there could be another GT3 entry coming at some point later on this season. Focus in on this here. You're right, Calvin. This was on the brink of getting a bit too aggressive at times. Ortman has that position. Anderson had a bit of a frustrating stint. I think it's safe to say got caught out of line and lost a spot or two, now trying to recover. Sizing up his competitor that he has not raced against very much. Ortman, again, has done almost all of his racing over in Europe. This is his first North American campaign.
Yeah, and just looking at the language, I'm not sure if there'd been a bit of argy-bargy between the two that caused him to make that sudden move, but just try to read into this, the dynamic of this little battle here, which is for P4 in class. Zach Anderson had a nice podium run here yesterday, looked to have the win, and in his grasp here, as he tucks that BMW down to the inside, there's a big bump right there that he launches over, side by side coming off. Ortman, not a lot of room now. Kenton Cook down side by side with Mac Miller going through turn 1.
How about this? Cook has tracked down this top group. Miller fighting back. These cars in different classes here, so they'll have to factor that in. Miller in the Pro-Am class, Kenton Cook in silver, but Kenton needs to get through the next 3 cars to have a shot at the class leader, which is Luca Mars right now. Here we go again, side by side. Anderson and Ortman. Boy, oh boy, that was tight.
There was a touch there. Ortman was all over the curb, and I think he
he's
may
got
have
a
damaged the
problem.
race car.
Yep, he does. Mike David Ortman.
Yeah, I think he may have cut down the left rear, excuse me.
Or maybe it's more the body work. I see something
Could be.
flapping underneath the
Yeah,
car.
there is. So maybe they'd touched, and he was just struggling to control the race car there with maybe a left cut down tire.
Yeah.
Looks okay, gets a little nudge, a little helping hand through the apex of turn 7, so it was a fierce battle. Didn't end up in ultimate tears, but certainly for Ortman, he's got a wounded race car now.
He's used to it. Those fields he has been in ADAC GT4 Germany, where he was a champion a couple of years ago, won a bunch of races. Now he is off the pace, seemingly, so perhaps there is something more sinister transpiring here for that car. Mike David Ortman, he'll know. He has a lot of seat time in these GT4 Astons over the last couple of years, so if something's not quite right, he should feel that right away.
Yeah, we've seen a few cars get high up on that curb in turn 4, and it really gives you a rough ride. You're struggling to control the race car, and when he was up in the air, literally, he kind of landed and got into the right rear quarter panel of Anderson. Anderson was able to easily control his race car and continue. Now he's got a nice gap over the chasing pack. Long back straightaway. This is your really risk versus reward in terms of the reward of getting the toe in the draft. A few more miles per hour versus the risk of overheating the engine.
We're not too far away from the pit window opening. 36 minutes, 24 seconds to go is the earliest anyone could make a stop and begin that window. I was wondering if they might keep this car out one more lap just to ensure that they were in the window and I wouldn't have to make an additional stop, but
I think that would have been a great call unless the car is just so squirrely to drive. He's got to come in or he knows that something is broken. But yeah, they could have done a little bit of work. You got plenty of time during those pit stops. Work is allowed to happen. You can't change tires unless you actually have a damaged tire. But that would have been a great opportunity with a minimum stop time of 84 seconds to work on that race car. Gives you about 40 seconds in your pit box.
That car was just given a 5-second time penalty for incident responsibility. Not sure if it was for what we saw, if that was for something else.
Yeah, I think we were focused on them for a long time, but I think even off camera there may have been some other moments that they were going through.
Agreed. Frustrating into the day, at least in terms of a competitive result. For Mike David Ortman, shares that car with Braden Arthur, who's an impressive young man in his own right. Excited to see what his future has in store, coming from a family that's been heavily involved in Formula V racing at the club level for multiple generations. Really didn't have much of a choice but to be a racing driver. But today's not been their day. Interesting that Kenton Cook has fallen off of that battle. Here is a pit stop. Yep, this is right inside the window. This is what ACI wants to do. Timing was perfect for them to get Dan Seville out and Kai Van Berlo in. Good stint from Dan, kept the nose clean. That was his job. And now, when the rest of the Pro-Am field is taking their pros out, they'll have Kai Van Berlo in their car.
Getting this net hooked up. Remember the pit stop yesterday was a delay. That was with a shoulder belt.
Good point.
We need a little bit more a relaxed net there. It's like it's absolutely jammed in, which for King to talk and suddenly not allowed to clip into position.
What they'll be hoping for is a yellow to bunch things up in the second half of the race and then turn Kai Van Berlo loose. See a silver class car electing to come in. Alex Ellis, as well as Hannah Grisham, Heart of Racing, and the Ellis car electing to pit here at the early part of the window.
Well, one advantage you can have if there is a yellow, pit lane would be closed, so you can be on the right side of that potential happening. So if you got two very evenly matched drivers, that might be the way to go. Kenton Cook, great work, as we talked about, from 11th on the grid all the way up to 6th overall, second in class.
But now stuck in this train.
Yeah, but I tell you what, that's okay. He can basically see the silver leader, and that's going to allow Kevin Bowman to go to work in the second phase of this race and try and chase after that Van der Steur Racing Aston Martin.
And of course, ideally for the championship, they would prefer maximum points. But if you're going to be beaten by a car that's not run the full season is probably the one you want to beat you. They're not in the championship mix.
Oh, that was a beautifully judged move there by Mark Miller. So hard to make that happen there on the entry of 13. Dickinson elected to just give him the lane, and unfortunately for him, by doing so, that allows Kenton Cook to get the run on him.
Not many people have passed Riley Dickinson over the last couple of seasons. Dominant Carrera Cup championship a few years back, and he's back in Carrera Cup again this year. Don't see that every day. I think you have to sit out for a couple of years after winning a title at the top class, and he's done that. He's gone back and has immediately returned to his winning ways. Championship leader after the most recent round that was run in support of the Formula One race in Miami.
Can't tell you how hard that is to make a move there, as Miller now runs a little bit wide, talking about his impressive move there through 13. I mean, you know, you're really massaging the car. It's so subtle. There's such a nuance to controlling the entry there, with the car kind of moving over to the left, all of the load on left-hand tires as you then try to turn right from a much shallower entry and roll a bit more speed than the car on the outside.
Well, Mark knows his business. Trans Am champion, Petit Le Mans class winner.
Pushed it in there and lost the front end. May have gotten to the ABS there because Miller didn't not want to give it up. So Kenton made the move with a subtle nudge on the front end of the Mercedes and immediately gaps this battle behind him by a couple of car lengths.
Well, this has been a great stint for Kenton because he has erased the deficit to the leader in his class effectively. He has no out-of-class cars in between anymore except for his teammate, Josh Green. Dickinson now trying to get the spot back from Mark Miller, but the Mercedes too good in the slow speed stuff. Mark able to hang on.
Well, in an ironic twist to that, yes, he's passed a couple of cars, but I think he's actually gapped himself further back from our silver class leader. But he's got some clean air now to work with before he hits pit lane. So if they'd all come into the pit lane right now, Kevin Bone would have been closer to the leader in class versus having to make that move and lose about a second.
Pit stops starting to come with a bit more frequency here. Jesse Webb, Jonathan Neudorf. That car just waiting for the word to go. Again, no tire changes or refueling. It's just about the driver change in Pirelli GT4 America, and then trying to maximize that time spent in the pit lane, get as close to the minimum as is possible.
Yeah, numbers I've been given as 44 seconds to drive down pit lane and 84-second stop, so easy math, 40 seconds basically to get the driver change done, any subtle tire pressure adjustments or what have you.
It's been a really good weekend for Luca Mars. Think about what he did in that race yesterday, driving defensively, showcasing his ability. Don't believe he has any previous experience in this Aston GT4. It does have a lot of GT4 experience with another brand as Jesse Webb tries to cool off. His day behind the wheel, at least, is done.
Yeah, tough sledding. You know, we expect those boys to be a little bit further forward, but it's just the level of competition. If you're a little bit off, suddenly you can be struggling to stay inside the top 10 overall.
Speaking of off, Mark Miller had 2 wheels off, but it didn't seem to slow him down a whole lot. He has run back down. Kenton Cook maybe a little bit disgruntled about how that pass occurred a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, I think they've raced against each other enough. They're in different classes. Kenton just had to keep pushing forward. He could see Luca Mars kind of driving away from the battle that he was involved in. So it was go time. It was subtle. I mean, you just get down to the inside, and Mark Miller pushed him hard enough that suddenly you have to cut the corner with the combined load. It's easy to activate that ABS.
Approaching halfway. Not a surprise to see most of the field electing to run long here in this stint for the Pro-Am lineups that started their pros. You want to maximize their time in the car.
Essentially, everyone has to be on pit lane with 25 minutes left on the clock. Can't be beyond that, otherwise you'll exceed 35 minutes on this 60-minute race, of course.
Right, and that's the maximum drive time permitted for any single driver. Time spent in the pit lane does not count towards the drive time. Miller looking up the inside.
These are 2 highly skilled race car drivers going at it here. So much experience between them two. Certainly the experience weighs more heavily on Mark Miller's side, but Kenton is just such a class guy and just continues to rinse and repeat victories, it seems, on a regular basis.
He is at the height of his powers right now. You look at what he's doing with this GT4 program, and he has multiple GT3 programs here in the States this year. Constantly a fixture at the front of the field. Right now, though, he pulls off into the pit lane. Most of the front runners are electing to do this. Very interesting that Black Dog has called Michael Cooper in.
Could have gone one more lap. Wouldn't have got 2 on the board by the time the clock whittles down to 25 minutes to go.
A couple of teams do roll the dice and stay out. The risk here is if there were a yellow or if you have a spin or anything like this, and we're told there is a car stopped on the track, so that might have caused some of these teams to go ahead and make that call. And here it is, Catania. This is the father and son team, Lucas and Joe.
It's a shame.
Yes,
They've been going well here this weekend.
Yeah.
But that's why they all hit pit lane, because you can't risk suddenly a full course yellow being thrown and safety car going out there. So great call by all of these teams that are on pit lane right now.
Quick thinking. So rolling the dice then is the Dome team as well as Nola Sport, who have left Miller and Laced respectively out for one more lap. We'll see if that...
If the series officials feel that that car is in a relatively safe spot, they may allow this essentially what is a pit stop window in terms of once it whittles down to 25 minutes. They may let that go down before they go yellow, possibly.
This is Kai Van Berlo. They've already made their stop. There's a report that maybe it was involved in a collision, possibly a puncture.
Yeah, right front to me looked like it might have been down a little bit, rolling down pit lane. Couldn't see the right-hand side, but just the attitude of the car looked a bit strange.
Well, that is not what they needed on the tactics that they're electing to employ here this weekend. Looks like Cooper to Gaples. That has allowed that McLaren to maintain the lead.
Slow
of
stop,
those that have pitted, yeah.
Slow stop, like 8 seconds outside, but...
which is why Sam Craven now is so close. Yesterday, Josh Green finished the race off. As we go full course yellow now, I don't think either Miller or Laced got in.
So they'll have an extra 5 minutes to get this done.
There is, let's see, Brayton Arthur, it looks like, coming down the pit lane now.
Did he come in when...
Yeah, I don't know.
Pit lane should be closed right now with full course yellow and safety car being released.
This is the overall leader. We saw the safety car in the background, so you're going to have to get that sorted.
Yeah, they missed him.
Easy to do when the de facto leader is Tony Gaples for Black Dog Speed Shop, because this Mercedes here and also the Nola Sport Porsche owe pit stops, so easy to focus on the cars that will cycle through.
Michael Stillwagon scorching it around the outside there and getting our overall leader in the position he needs to be.
Yep.
Yeah, so for Dome Racing there, this kind of backfired on them a little bit by running that risk. I think they should have made the same call that everyone else did in terms of a potential for a yellow being thrown with this car sitting kind of the brake zone. If two cars get together or someone has a technical issue, you could spear into that race car.
Sure.
So you have to make the call. It's not ideal. It complicates things, particularly with these minimum or maximum drive times.
I could be proven wrong, but I do think that Miller and Laced each had at least one chance to take that pit stop before the yellow came out. I believe we have a look at the incident that befell Catania here. I don't really get incident so much as some kind of a technical issue. That car pulls off track. Hard to glean a whole lot from that.
Yeah, something's amiss. Obviously, it's extremely hot and cause a lot of the systems to shut down.
Well, top two here owe a pit stop. This is going to cycle Tony Gaples through to the lead of this race ahead of Sam Craven, a winner yesterday. Those are Pro-Am cars. Then it's Kevin Boehm, the leader in silver. He'll have Max Hewitt just behind. So actually, that's a change in position there in the pit lane, right? Random Vandals was running second. Vanderster was leading in silver. They have swapped. It was a slightly slow stop for Vanderster, about 4 seconds over the minimum, and that made the difference.
It did. So what should happen here, once the field had basically been collected, and hopefully for Mark Miller and company, that will be on this lap. They should be allowed to hit pit lane, so it's not like we have to wait to go back to green. Sure, what's happening here? Is it's just the pack catching up here?
I think so. Well, I thought so.
Yeah.
Safety car is on the Goldman Straight, so maybe it's just because that's the gap caused by these guys having pitted.
Yeah. But they're just rolling around at speed here, trying to catch up to the pack, and I think the problem for Miller and company right here is that the pack hasn't been collected, and that may create a situation where pit lane is not open for a further lap. So I think Stillwagon's doing everything he can from behind the wheel to slow this group up.
Right.
And if they get the majority of these cars that are now screaming through turn 16, that may then open up pit lane for Miller and Lace to hit at this time by versus waiting another lap.
But they will be cycled back behind everyone
Sure.
who has already stopped, which is why this yellow has been, the timing of it has been so unfortunate for those two. Going to be a few cars eligible for a pass around, and here it begins now, I think, as the two that owe us the stops come in. There were a few cars trapped a lap down behind these two that had not pitted, but ahead of the new leader, Tony Gaples, so those guys have been waved back, and they get their lap back effectively. I think Sam Owen was one of them, and also Tim Savage. And here's Michael Oriema climbing in. Mateus Lace looks pretty frustrated,
Yeah.
understandably so.
Oh, that is when you know what's just hit you in terms of that full course yellow and you've been working hard for 35 minutes. It is a very frustrating situation for sure. Win and lose it as a team. You know, from the driver's seat, you take the direction from the pit box, but you can force it a little bit. If you've seen the car out there, you can almost say, we have to come now. And the reality is, as long as the driver is ready, the co-driver is ready to go. It's not like you're waiting for tires and everything to be prepped. So
right.
You can make a late call a little bit easier in GT4 versus GT World Challenge America.
Out goes Michael Oriema. Eddie Killeen climbing aboard the car started by Mark Miller. Very distinctive livery. Not going to forget this one. And Eddie heads out on track, having unfortunately lost a lot of track position. Lights are off on the safety car. The cleanup is complete, so we're half a lap away, Cal, from getting this race restarted.
Yep. Everyone's got to get up on the wheel. Tony Gaples, always a great racer. Great stint by his teammate on the opening salvo. So Tony's got the overall lead and the lead in Pro-Am, but he's got a lot of work to do to get that checkered flag.
Quick update from the pits before we go back green. Jonathan Grace is standing by.
Well, if you take a look at race one of the teams that absolutely nailed it across the board was Random Vandals, 2-class win, and I think they've done that last round of pit stops to absolute perfection, especially for that 97 car. They were running 5th or 6th in class. They brought that silver class car with Kevin Bohm freshly installed up to the head of the field. The 98 now with Paul Sparta was leading, still leading, and the 94 is in 2nd place in Pro-Am. They are set to potentially win all 3 classes today, guys.
That's what they're setting out to do. It was good pit work from Random Vandals. They were right there at the minimum for the 97 of now Kevin Bohm. The car Kitten Cook started, came into that pit sequence in 2nd, Cal, and the problem for Vanderster, a little bit slow on their stop, that allowed the 97 to jump up after starting well down the order. Started this race down, I think, 5th or 6th in class.
Well, I think that's what they continue to do. They can seem like they're on the back foot. Maybe they open up the door to have a bad championship day, but they're just so poised. Kenton does what he does every single weekend. Now Kevin Bohm's behind the wheel with the class lead. He's going to have to work hard. He's got Hewitt right behind him. I think maybe of all 3, maybe the toughest challenge is going to be for Paul Sparta, because he's got some really fast guys, a couple of cars back, and James Clay. Laura Hayes has been sensational this year. Girazzi, who came in this weekend with a championship lead. So Paul's got to get up on the wheel if he's going to try and hold on to that M-Class lead.
He does have track position, sitting 12th overall, but you're right. You look at that group behind him. They have been strong, not just this weekend, but all season. So Paul's got some work to do. Coming to the green flag with just 19 minutes to go in the race. Tony Gaples for Black Dog Speed Shop leads the field into the VP acceleration zone. Just behind him, Sam Craven, a winner yesterday, already looking aggressive, coming to the start-finish line. BMW and McLaren side by side, heading down into turn number 1. And around the outside, Craven grabs the lead. Following him through, Kevin Bohm, who's already trying to build a gap over Max Hewitt for that silver class lead. And Tony Gaples not ready to give it up just yet, but ultimately does have to settle back in.
Yeah, Hewitt slides around the outside as well and clears. Gaples by the time they get to turn 5, so not a great start for our overall leader, but big commitment there by Sam Craven, really on edge as he poked it into the outside there, coming through turn 1, and Kevin Bowen slides through as well and leads in silver.
Heard Sam talk in his post-race interview yesterday about spending his early years as a racing mechanic, dreaming of getting to race a car, and has been given that opportunity by Random Vandals here this year, taking full advantage of it, driving to the lead of the race with under 20 minutes to go. Fierce battles breaking out behind the overall leader, Craven. Bohm not too far behind him. That could be interesting, that dynamic between the teammates.
Yeah, right there as we're coming through the screen, I think Esparta, then Clay, then Laura Hayes has had an awesome start here. So Clay and Hayes are suddenly on the tail end of our AM leader.
And Paul only lost one spot on the restart, so that's really about Clay and Hayes charging on the restart. Oh,
Anna Greenmeyer there, nice move down the inside in turn 13 aboard the number 26 Heart of Racing Aston Martin.
There goes Paul Sparta through the middle in that traditional color scheme for Random Vandals. Mixed up in all of this is Kai Van Berlo trying to recover. But I think that car's a lap down. It is because of that puncture that they suffered. Oh, that's a late move from the Aston to the inside. Oh, and problems for Adrian Comstock. He ends up wide. He's losing heaps of positions.
I think he may have a technical issue. Didn't seem to have any speed through there. Drifting way back right now. Sparta, a nice run through there. Greenmeyer still making moves there, and that's kind of gapped the other AM contenders for a moment.
Big development for a Pro-Am contender. Car 82, that's James Walker Jr. 2-second post-race time penalty. They were a couple of tenths under the minimum in the pit stop, and also a 7/10 of a second time penalty to the leader in AM. How about that? It's Paul Sparta.
Yeah, that's kind of really close. They were basically 72 thousandths of a second too quick, but when you multiply it out, that means that he can't afford to come across the line with the victory with someone right on his tail.
Kurt Swearingen coming under attack. Lost a couple of spots. Danny Dashelski, the most recent to get through. Car started by Alex Ellis. Craven with some really good pace at the front of this field. Kevin Bohm has not been able to make quick work of him. No. Tony Gaples has settled in nicely. He continues to run second in Pro-Am, and he's been able to keep Gresham Wagner behind him.
Yeah, it's tricky there from the pole. You know, you kind of protect the inside a little bit, and when cars run a big speed around the outside into turn one, that's how Tony lost those positions on the restart. But he settled in nicely. I think he's got a lot of confidence on this racetrack. Historically, he's done really, really well. Team has good setups. The McLaren seems to be pretty sporty at the moment in terms of BOP as well.
Saw Michael Cooper just flying in that car at race one yesterday. Similar here in race two, got the big lead. And yellow flag was not what they wanted after Michael got off to such a great start today.
Yeah, he would have liked to handed the car over to Tony with a nice clean pit stop with about a 3 to 4 second lead, but suddenly Tony had the whole field right on his tail as we went back to green flag action.
Inside the final quarter of this race, in fact, Random Vandals 1-2 as they were a day ago, but the order was reversed. It was the silver class car that won overall, then the Pro-Am entry. Right now, it's the Pro-Am entry out in front looking for the overall victory.
Paul Sparta's getting the job done, running a very similar pace. He still has the lead. Does have that post-race penalty to think about.
There's Josh Green, what a star he was yesterday.
Yeah, Paul Sparta speaks very highly of him. Paul being the team principal as well as a race driver in the middle of this fight for the M-Class win today.
Tony Gaples just saw Gresham Wagner get around. He's caught in the middle of a bunch of silver class cars. Meanwhile, Kurt Swearingen off and back on. Leaves him vulnerable. Here comes Tony McIntosh. That's a change in position.
It is. It's for P4 in class.
And effectively for P3, given the penalty that's coming the way of the 82.
That is correct. So those subtleties where you think, oh, it's just a couple of tenths, but when you multiply it by 10, suddenly post-race, that is a huge handicap that you've got to get over.
Oh, problems here for Eddie Killeen, spearing off track and into the tire barrier. That was not a small impact for the 37. This was a front-running car early in this race with Mark Miller driving.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he can extricate himself out of that situation to stop us from going full course yellow here. Right now, Random Vandals lead all three classes. BMW looking for a complete sweep of the weekend.
Little consternation on the face of Kitten Cook. He watches on. Oh, look at that. Change of position. Kevin Boehm around Sam Craven.
I wonder if that was a team call.
I wonder too, especially with the potential of a full course yellow looming, to put a car in between Kevin and his closest pursuer in class.
It's a great call.
This team has utilized some team tactics this year. I think back to Circuit of the Americas and GT World Challenge, where they swapped their two cars at one point. No problems here for Sam Owen. It's another one of those beautiful McLaren Arturas, but he's off and on down at turn 7. Well, Colleen able to continue on.
Car looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Consider he's just been in the fence.
So the question of whether or not this was orchestrated, I think this replay answers that. It looks like, yes, Random Vandals wanted to make sure they were as well positioned as possible in the event of a full course yellow.
So we're going to stay green. We're seeing the Dome Racing Mercedes back on the racetrack. So we're seeing a couple of big offs today, and people drive away remarkably.
Yeah, very impressive to see that. Craven doing a great job to keep pace with Kevin Boehm.
He's just got to watch those temperatures running that close to his teammate in front of him.
Further back, look at this battle here. Wagner has just managed to get around Hewitt. Colin Garrett has arrived on the scene and is putting some pressure on Max now. And a problem for Kurt Swearingen.
He's been into the wall.
Looks that way.
Rear wing is tilted forward.
It's another early front-running car with Riley Dickinson.
Yeah, Wagner's having a good run here, because we haven't really seen the Supra come to life, but suddenly Wagner's got the tail between his legs here, and he is off and running.
No question. He's able to catch the Vanderstur Aston, and that's probably why Random Vandals wanted to make that swap, and they're going to keep it that way just to give an extra buffer to Kevin Boehm. Sam Craven's nearest competitor is Tony Gaples, down in 6th. Tony right there in the middle of that battle pack.
Yeah, he's lost a couple of positions overall, but he's still in a really solid P2, which would follow up on a really nice podium here yesterday. So a big points weekend potentially. And they come into this round of the championship sitting 2nd in points, so it's a good weekend for them.
James Walker Jr. just dropped a spot. Anthony McIntosh was able to get by. That's another Supra that's starting to come to life. Kai Van Berlo in the mix there too, but that car is a lap down, unfortunately.
Tony Gaples there had a big head of steam down the Almond Straight, thought about pushing it down into that brake zone, settles back in again. And the team that they're chasing in the points is the 82 car that we just saw had a little bit of a moment, and also have that post-race penalty for that pit stop that was a little bit light.
Comes Danny Dyszelski now to the rear wing of Tony Gaples. Dyszelski at silver class entry. Gaples' next pursuer for position is actually the blue Supra there. Car in between is the lapped car of Kai Van Berlo. Had to make that unscheduled stop and trapped him a lap down.
Yeah, hopefully Tony has now found a spot in this train where he can just settle in and focus. And the team will talk him through this. Listen, we're probably not got the pace to chase down that leader right now, so just really focus on a nice solid podium run. Let this car go, settle back in, and then the fight is with that blue Supra right behind you that's now almost right beside you.
Fight is on for 2nd place in class. Now, a few moments ago, we had the issue for Eddie Colleen.
It's wide through turn 1.
Not the first time we've seen that this weekend.
Yeah, and the temptation is to try and pull the race car back onto the racetrack. When you're that wide, you almost got to turn the other way and just keep it straight. Swearingen a big moment there in turn 4.
Cost him dearly. Tough day for ACI across the board. Both of their cars have hit some troubles. But you're right, Gaples maybe now getting into a bit of a rhythm now that those silver class cars are through. He needs to focus in because he's second in Pro-Am. McIntosh is just behind him in third, and then Walker, who does carry that 2-second post-race penalty, sits behind McIntosh.
Yeah, and as we said before, they are the championship leaders, contenders. So Walker there in that red BMW just coming to the shot right there, screen right. They're the championship leaders coming in. Gaples are the closest pursuers in the points, he and Michael Cooper.
What a weekend it's shaping up to be, though, for the Vandals. Yesterday, 4 podiums out of a possible 5 across multiple championships. 3 wins. Today, still have the GT World Challenge America race to come, but they are first and second overall. Leaders in Silver and Pro-Am, and Paul Sparta actually has dropped back, hasn't he? Clay is through and Hayes is through too. So Paul's still, though, in a podium spot, but he's coming under some pressure here from Anthony Gerasi.
Yeah, he's only a couple of seconds back from the leader, but he has lost that track position. And he has a small penalty he has to serve post-race as well.
Well, instead, what a day it could be, what a weekend it could be for James Clay and Charlie Post. Did not get this season off to a great start at Sonoma, but had a really good 3-hour race at Circuit of the Americas. And this could be a clean sweep of the weekend here at Sebring to make it 3 wins on the bounce if they can hang on for the final 6.5 minutes.
Yeah, back to their 22-23 form, where it was not only really strong in terms of speed, but the consistency and the number of wins that they were racking up during those 2 championship years.
Yeah, they were a force in that AM class.
Here's Clay, having made the move and gapped. The nearest pursuer is Laura Hayes. Thunder Bunny Racing there. That's the green and black. Supra there just in the backdrop. So she's keeping James honest. Can they push forward and claim their first win? A burst on the scene at Circuit of the Americas. It's just an incredible performance, but they are for real. Come to a very different racetrack. We've also spoken about the fact that Supra may not be the fastest car here this weekend, but they are pushing hard for the win.
Team has been super impressive. Comes from MX5 Cup. Popped onto the scene earlier this year and really opened our eyes, I think I'm ready to admit, with some of the pace they displayed in that 3-hour race at Circuit of the Americas, and backing it up here as well at Sebring. Deschelsky. This is a battle with the Van der Stur car of Hewitt. This is for position in silver class, and Deschelsky now up another spot.
Yeah, really nice run. Tony Gaples, he's just got to keep the hammer down. Hewitt runs a little bit wide there. Tony grabs that overall position. Nice little buffer back to the next car in Pro-Am.
Yes, exactly. That's great news for Tony, his closest challenger for that second position in Pro-Am. Tony McIntosh now has to get through Hewitt to get to him. Quite frankly, McIntosh probably has his hands full of James Walker Jr. in any event.
Yeah, Walker Jr. is going to be pushing hard. See if he can gain a position or two and gap them by a couple of seconds. Nothing comes easy. Had that brilliant run at Circuit of the Americas on was home turf for James Walker Jr. A lot of family there. He had his daughter there who she graduated 1 year ago, wasn't it?
Correct.
They celebrated her graduation.
Yeah, that was very special, I know, for James to have the family there to support him this time around. They were understandably preoccupied with his daughter's graduation the previous year. But she got some TV time with Amanda at Circuit of the Americas.
Kevin Boehm up front. Just monotonous with his pace. It's really found great chemistry and a great partnership and a friend in Kenton Cook. And been delivering every single weekend.
Something has happened, though, to the team boss. Paul Sparta has dropped a ton of positions on this lap. He's now shown 21st overall and has not come around to complete the second sector. That is curious. On a weekend that has gone extremely well for the team in almost every respect, it's the team boss that has had to suffer the misfortune this time around. And he continues to drop down the order to try and get to the bottom of that. Did get a report from the team that there's no plan to swap positions again at the front of the field, and no surprise considering Kevin Bohm's built a 2-second lead. Plus, again, this gives him that buffer back to the rest of the silver class.
Battle there, middle of the pack is getting pretty tight. Big compression of these various class cars running together.
Some lap traffic to deal with too. Tim Savage down in 24th overall. Very sportsmanlike a few moments ago, led a couple of the front runners through, but he's got this big pack now starting to hone in.
In the backdrop there, you see Hannah Greenmeyer looking for a way through, tucks the nose down to the inside there, trying to make a move for position in the silver class on Jonathan Neudorf. They're side by side as they exit turn 10.
Couldn't get it done this time, but in this trio of Astons, it's the second two that we need to be paying attention to. The car at the front of this pack is a lap down, and Tim...
Right behind them, that's Clay and Laura Hayes fighting out for the M-Class win as well. Laura Hayes has caught James Clay.
Yeah, this traffic has not been good for James Clay. He's not in a position to be too patient here with just a minute on the clock. We'll keep close tabs on this, but remember, Paul Sparta was the M-Class leader. As Hayes gets to the inside, this is what happened to Paul just a few moments ago.
Oh, that's turn 13. Just gets wide, and two cars go for a loop.
Ooh.
74, was it?
72.
That's
Gerasi. Wow.
Championship contender.
That was not a small hit for Paul. Evidently, that car was able to get back to a safe place. We stay green for now. White flag waves. Look further back here, and a change for the lead in M. Laura Hayes has gotten around the two-time champ.
Well, James Clay will get his elbows out. We've seen it many times before. Where does he see opportunity on this final lap to go for that M-Class win and sweep the weekend for Bimmerworld?
James trying to counterattack, looking to the inside. Laura gives him a little bit of a window at least to peek through, but not enough to climb through.
Great stuff here. What a performance by Thunder Bunny Racing. Certainly served note of their speed at the last round of the championship, but this would be a huge victory for them. And she has gapped James Clay. Clay has dropped like 2 to 3 car lengths. Not sure if he's got any overheating issues, but he just doesn't seem to have any straightaway speed right there.
Complicating things, though, she's about to run into the same battle that held James up for a bit as Hannah Greenmeyer continues to hound Jonathan Neudorf. Neudorf goes to the inside. Here comes Greenmeyer to the outside. These two are on the same lap, or in the same class, I should say. Greenmeyer got to the side but couldn't get through.
Great job there by Neudorf. Just hung Hannah out to dry a little bit, and she couldn't quite get the car to turn in on the dirty part of the racetrack there. She's attempting to run around the outside and go side by side through that rhythm section, as I call it, but he was smart enough and savvy enough to keep her waiting long enough that she didn't have the grip.
James Clay has caught back up to Laura Hayes. She has been stymied. She has been balked by the fight for position in front of her. Time running out, though, on this, the final lap of the race. Battle for the lead in the AM class coming down to the wire. At the front, Kevin Bohm leading home a 1-2 for the second straight day for Random Vandals Racing. Kevin Bohm, Kitten Cook sweep the weekend. They take the win in silver, while Sam Craven and Josh Green take victory in Pro-Am. Wagner across the line for second in silver. Here come the fights to the checkered flag. Clay going around the outside. Hayes caught in traffic. That gives up an opportunity to the inside. Here comes Clay. Drag race to the line for the lead in the AM class, and at the stripe, James Clay takes it back by 51 thousandths of a second.
Wow, that was a thriller right there. So complex with the dynamic with various classes running together, and he makes it stick. Superb run, and Laura Hayes will be disappointed, but nonetheless, another big day for that team.
So close for Laura Hayes, Alan Patton, and Thunder Bunny Racing. But they'll have to wait for another day to get that win. If you're going to win a championship over the past few years, more likely than not, you have to go through this car in the M class. James Clay and Charlie Postons do it again.
Wow, didn't come easy, right? It looked like he got on the wrong side of that, then he suddenly dropped 3 or 4 car lengths. I thought, boy, does he have some kind of technical issue? But he fought hard and just positioned that car perfectly.
Fantastic run to the checkered flag. It was a 3-second advantage at the front of the field, Bohm over Craven. But this is how close it was. And there were 2 other cars as well fighting for overall positions at the checkered. That's what 51 thousandths of a second looks like from James Clay to Laura Hayes. And Clay lost out on 11th overall by just 19 thousandths of a second to Hannah Greenmeyer.
Big weekend. They have got their mojo back. James Clay, Charlie Postons won the double points race, the 3-hour enduro at Circuit of the Americas, and then they come here to Sebring and sweep the weekend with a lot of stiff competition.
They'll be disappointed we have such a long layoff before the next race. They have good momentum right now, but the good news is for the Bimmer World team, the next race is their home race at VIR. They're from nearby Blacksburg, Virginia. Dublin, Virginia is really where the team is based, not far at all from that VIR circuit where they've had so much success over the years.
Yeah, it's been a happy hunting ground for them, so they're looking to go there to home turf. But you never know. There's a lot of great teams. Just because you're on your home turf and you may feel you have the advantage, I don't think other teams factor that in. They're just going to try and beat you.
For the second straight day, it is a BMW sweep of the class wins in Pirelli GT4 America. This has been a good track for BMW here this weekend. In fact, we have the exact same winners from day 1 to day 2, don't we? Across all 3 classes. And
yeah.
That does not happen regularly in Pirelli GT4 America. Here are those winners. Kevin Bowen, Kitten Cook, winners overall for the second straight day and in the silver class. Josh Green, Sam Craven, what a good restart Sam had to get that car to the lead and led overall for a good chunk of it. James Clay, Charlie Postons lost the lead but got it back with a last gasp run to the start-finish line. Provisional results, 3.1 seconds between the top 2 Random Vandals cars. Good recovery from the Rafa Racing team, Wagner and Gonzalez. We saw Gonzalez drift back, but Wagner was able to elevate that Supra in the final analysis. A good strong run to second. Auto Technics, Colin Garrett and Zach Anderson completing the silver class podium. Rest of the podium in Pro-Am, Gaples and Cooper for Black Dog Racing in the second spot. McIntosh and Thompson able to finish 8th overall, but 3rd in their class. Clay and Postons winners in M, ahead of Hayes and Patton by just the narrowest of margins. Judson Holt and Denny Stripling, another quiet day, but a good one. They finished 3rd in M. And head to the next round, feeling pretty good about the outing here at Sebring. Well, there's Kevin Bohm getting ready to take that helmet off. He'll be ready to do so. Told us yesterday that even with the AC on in the cockpit, the temperatures got up over 120 degrees
Crazy.
Fahrenheit. He'll put the Pirelli winner's hat on, and in just a few moments, we'll have a chance to hear from the multi-time touring car champion, who's been a championship contender for quite a while in GT4.
Yeah, unofficially with that victory, that leapfrogs them to the top of the table. Gresham Wagner shakes his hand, but with a wry grin, he knows they got a fight in their hands for this championship now.
They do. It'll be a good fight the rest of the way. You won't want to miss it. Trips upcoming to VIR, Road America, Barber Motorsports Park, and then the season concludes at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in October in conjunction with the Indy 8-Hour. A chance to hear from our race winners now. Jonathan Grace is in victory lane.
Well, what a weekend it's been for the Random Vandals crew. Kevin, I'll start with you. Congratulations, getting it done 2 days in a row. We saw the team swap the cars, but there's no doubt the Vandals were the quickest on the track this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the Random Vandals, it's pretty clear we had a good race car this weekend, but I think more important than that, we got a great team here. Kenton and I just really gel really well behind the wheel. We love driving together, and I think when it all clicks, I mean, we do results like this. So massive thanks to the entire Random Vandals team. I mean, they work really hard. They put a lot of effort behind this, and it's pretty incredible to kind of celebrate everything with them. So yeah, massive props to them, and thanks to CrowdStrike and AWS for all the support. It's been an incredible ride with everybody.
Oh, what a ride it's been. Kenton, I'll come to you next. Winning overall, second day in a row. It's been a busy weekend for you. I don't know how you're going to have room in your suitcase for all the trophies you're taking back from this weekend.
Thankfully, I'm close to the shop, so it's just going to go in the trailer. Yeah, I mean, I can't really say enough about the team and what they were able to do. COTA, we struggled for pace, and we found some anomalies in the car, and we did a whole drivetrain swap from one of the spare cars into this car, and it showed this weekend that we had the pace. The team did a good job preparing the vehicle for us to have a fast race car. We just piloted it, and we did the best we could with what we had, and it was a good weapon to fight with. So yeah, I'm very thankful to be with Kevin here. He made my life easy yesterday, so I tried my best in the first stint to help him out for the second stint, and he finished it off great, and very proud, yeah.
Well, Ken Cook and Kevin Bohm proving to be the pair to beat here at Sebring this weekend. Congratulations to our overall winners. Guys, let's see if we can go find some of the other class winners as well.
Yeah, we'll let you get to it, Jonathan. Great weekend for them. And for Random Vandals, of course, they still have another big race coming up this afternoon in GT World Challenge as they look to pick up another GT3 win. Look here at the best car in the field, and even it looks out of control over the bumps there in turn 17.
Yeah, it's quite the ride. As I always say, I've never been through that corner twice the same consecutively anyway. So controlling the bumps and controlling the heat. And like Kevin Bohm said, it's a team effort. I mean, yes, you're out there in tough conditions as a driver, but for the teams to be working under the tents were literally like saunas all week long is a tough ask.
It is. It's been a grueling weekend for teams, drivers, spectators, series officials, pit lane reporters, you name it. A chance to hear from some more winners. It's Jonathan Grace down in victory lane.
Well, James Clay and Charlie Postins, you guys certainly made it exciting for us all there at the M. You've had the pace all weekend. You made sure it was a perfect weekend for BMW, but what physical work. Talk me through those final laps and what you were feeling like in the car. You lost the position, and then you got it back right at the end there.
So it was, it was hot out here today, and the car was a real challenge. The rear end was starting to get a little soft, loose, etc. So driving the car in that condition was already a challenge. And then as soon as we came up on traffic, I was pacing the cars behind, and then the traffic I knew was going to screw us. And sure enough, there was a balk, and she got past. Laura did a great job, but it was last lap, and once again that traffic was still up there. And I just turned the TC off and fired it in the last corner, let it rip, and it was nice and clean and surprising, but good way to win. I'm proud of it.
Well, James made it stick. Charlie, how nervous were you watching on the timing stand, watching that all unfold?
Well, I got to be honest, I got every faith in my teammate. We've been doing this a few years now, and if there's anyone who could do it, it was James of Bimmerworld, and he did it. I'm not surprised. I'm just stoked to have a sweep this weekend. It's awesome. Back in the championship.
Back in the fight, indeed. Your winners in the AM class. Congratulations, James Clay and Charlie Postins.
Yeah, great weekend for the pair of them. Outstanding work, and I'd say more than back in the fight. I think they sent a message to the rest of the field.
Well, they grabbed the championship lead by a slender margin after the win yesterday, like stand-up margin here with the sweep of the weekend. So 2 winners and 2 championship leaders so far in amongst our interviews there.
One more time to look at it. Interesting insight there from James as well, that he elected to turn the TC off and just go for it. What advantage might that have given him?
Well, sometimes the TC can be very interruptive there as you're coming over the bumps there and cause you to lose a little bit of acceleration on the sprint to the line.
Let's go back to Jonathan.
We mentioned a perfect weekend for BMW, but a 1-2 at the head of the field for the Random Vandals squad. You were in the car at the end, obviously, at the end, John. I want to start with you. Just talk me through those final laps. They swapped the cars around, obviously, but to lead home a Team 1-2 is always the ideal result for a race weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome leading a pro race like this, but I think the team said they saw a yellow coming, they wanted us to swap. I feel like that was the right move, and then Kevin and I were able to just set the pace for the rest of the time. It was awesome. Thank you to everyone at Imperium Garagisti, European Motor Car Repair back home, and the entire Random Vandals team. This was incredible.
Well, Sam may have finished in the car, but Josh, you did a lot of the hard work at the beginning of the race. What was that like for you in setting this result up?
Man, it was fantastic. Random Vandals gave us a fantastic car. The thing was on rails, as we saw throughout the whole weekend. I will say, like, yesterday, obviously, we know these cars are really good in the heat. It wasn't quite as hot, so like our sort of similar pace on the straights wasn't there, so it made overtakes a bit more hard, let's say. Mark Miller in that Mercedes, he caught past whatever car was behind me, started chasing me down. I knew I had to do something kind of silly to get by Dickinson in the Porsche, and made a kind of silly move into 17, but got it done, and then we made the gap, set the pace, and drove away for a bit there. Kenton got right up behind me, and we pitted and gave the car to Sam, and you guys saw what happened. I mean, it was an amazing drive. And that passed through one. I mean, come on. Beautiful stuff.
Beautiful stuff indeed for Random Vandals. 1-2 at the head of the field. Those are your Pro-Am winners, guys.
Fantastic stuff for the Random Vandals team. They'll have a whole lot to look back on from this weekend at Sebring. Race 2 started with Michael Cooper going to the lead of the race and pulling a massive gap for the Black Dog Speed Shop car. Mark Miller got roughed up a little bit at the beginning, but he would come back. Strong opening stint for the Michigander. Fights breaking out, including this one here. Kenton Cook and Mark Miller. They go wheel to wheel, door to door. Miller not an easy guy to get around. Did a great job there to fend off the challenge from the car that would go on to win overall. Cars using up the curbing and then some here at Sebring. Good opening stint from Kenton Cook to close in on the front of the field after a qualifying effort that had them start outside of the front 10. Did ultimately catch up to Miller and make that pass stick, but it came with great effort. After the pit stops, it was Random Vandals 1-2. The Pro-Am car leading the silver class car. Scary moment there for Kurt Swearingen. Unfortunately, not the last he would have in the race today, as Tony McIntosh was able to gain a position in class at the expense of Mark. Eddie Colleen spearing across the track, able to drive away from that heavy impact. That was very fortunate indeed. Tony Gaples fighting with Max Hewitt, out of class, but still very fierce in the final quarter hour. Big moment for one of the front runners in AM. That's Paul Sparta, off track and into the inside retaining wall. He'll take some solace, though, that his team went 1-2 for the second straight day. Kevin Bohm, Kenton Cook take the silver class honors ahead of Sam Craven and Josh Green. And what a battle it was to the line for the AM class win. James Clay, by just a fraction of a second, gets the win as the series turns its attention next to a trip to VIR.